Hello, my name is Joey Morgan. I played the Doctor, and I edited Doctor Who Witchmark.
Hello, my name is Jacob Licklider. I adapted Witchmark for audio, and I played David. So, adapting Witchmark is just an odd case, because this is mainly one of the books that isn't highly regarded. It's Doctor Who does fantasy, but unlike, the best fantasy novels, it doesn't really spend a lot of time world building. Instead just sort of wraps it around in a missing persons plot and opens plot thread after plot thread before actually closing them. So in this adaptation, we took to the bare bones, took the plot thread of murder and intrigue, and essentially decided to stick with that for our episode, which I hope came across. Witchmark is also one of the books where you set up a thread that only gets picked up nearly over 40 books later in Kate Orman's Return of the Living Dad. Which hopefully will explain the oddness of the episode 1 cliffhanger and this duplicate plot that doesn't get resolved. Yes, in adapting we know it doesn't get resolved. Trust me, it'll get resolved in a much, much later book. And so it's production-wise, this was one of the audios that we actually cast from mostly our regulars. So all the people that you hear here have basically starred in previous audios or auditioned for Warhead and didn't get in. That's sort of what we do with these cut-down adaptations for 2 episodes. And we basically all got the cast together, and it was great. And this is the first audio to introduce our new ace, played by the lovely Elite Torres, as sadly Georgia Spencer moved on from playing Ace. She sadly didn't want to do it anymore. Although I hope we get to work with her again in other roles. But yes, I hope you enjoyed listening to Witchmark. And basically after this point, this is really the place where the new adventures can begin. We have no more subtitled arcs, and of course we hope to see you back next time in the new adventures early next year when we get to do a book by Ben Aronovich.
It was great fun working on Witchmark. A fantastic wee story there as well, and it's great to see these novel adaptations coming to life. It was absolutely fabulous to get the opportunity to play Ace, who was a character I loved growing up. She was the first companion I really knew or remembered, so it was wonderful getting the opportunity to play her alongside my first Doctor. And what a fantastic adventure as well. You remember playing these things in your back garden and you think to yourself, well, you never truly grow up when you're an actor, so it's been great fun indeed. A great team put together by a Security Kitchen, and I can't state it enough. I love the name because I think the first time you hear it, it's in classic Who, of course, and you'll never forget the line, "Take them to the Security Kitchen," and it's just like, security what? So it's like a great title for a company, and that kind of drew me straight away. But yeah, wonderful people to work for, some great writers in there, some great adaptations and good talent as well. And apparently I heard it wasn't like one of most favourable stories as a book, but to adapt it into a script, it gives it more life, and I think they've done just that. So big well done to the rest of the cast, who are absolutely fantastic from what I've heard so far. Thank you, Security Kitchen, for having me as part of this wonderful production, and of course for playing Ace. It was brilliant. Thank you. Take care. Catch you later. Bye.
Yeah, this one was a ton of fun to do. Of course, adapting it from not one of the more favorable books from the New Adventures, there were a lot of cuts that had to be made, but I feel like the stories that we end up cutting a lot from in the adaptations sometimes end up being the most fun to do, because they become just these quick little short hops of adventures, and you really just get the best of the story, when you cut out a lot of the fat from certain books. And certain books are more suited to it than others. This was one of those cases where we were able to cut it down to where we had a really fun adventure in the making. It was a breeze to edit.
Hello, my name is Brian Corrigan, and I played the role of Jack in Witchmark. Jack is very different from the roles I've been playing for the novel adaptations recently. I've mostly been allocated to crazy child or teenager. This time I'm playing the role of relatively grounded college-age kid who happens to find himself in a really, really crazy situation and has, shall we say, trouble coming to terms with it. So, I actually sat down to record this character twice. The first time I played him what I think I would say is a bit not excitable enough. There are moments in the script where he clearly needs to be in great distress, and the first time I sat down to record his lines, I was not distressed enough. So basically, when I was going through this, I sat down to play what I call the American male Susan Foreman. Just so happens that Joey really liked that performance. I didn't think he would. But he did, and he thought it was really solid, and so it worked out in the end. I thought it was a bit of a gamble to go that direction, but apparently he really liked it. So yeah, Jack was a nice change of pace from what I've been doing recently, because I really needed a change of pace from what I've been doing recently. I think I'm a jerk. I probably mentioned it to Joey a couple times that I was maybe bored with playing the crazy teenagers. I don't know, maybe I did, maybe I didn't, but I was. So to finally be playing someone who isn't crazy and actually just finds himself in a really terrible situation is really fun. Of course, I cannot talk about Jack without talking about how often he screams David's name in Witchmark, because he screams it a lot, and that's partially where the Susan Foreman idea came from, because Susan Foreman is always screaming, "Grandfather!" Well, I decided, you know what? David. Let's turn grandfather into David, and, you know, it's in the script that, it's probably in the book, that my character is American, so we did that. Funnily enough, so as I was recording these lines, I realized that it was written in the script, and the way I was performing it, Jack cares a lot about David, and at first I didn't really think anything about it. Oh, they're just really good friends. Well, actually, turns out Jacob had the little headcanon that David and Jack were a gay couple. And this was mentioned to me on the latest episode of the Celestial podcast, and, you know, Joey went off and talked about how he wasn't necessarily about, like, shoehorning it into the script, so he didn't put it into the throwaway line like I guess Jacob was thinking about doing, and so just made it less obvious. And I guess the way I performed it, it comes across that way. So good job writing subtle character stuff, Jacob. You did that really well. And of course, as soon as Jacob and Joey told me that, I was like, oh, you know what? That makes sense. You know, because I interpreted it that way. And yeah, so funny little coinky dinkses. So I'm really pleased with how this one turned out. So yeah.
Playing the Doctor in this one was rather fun too. I remember in the book, the Doctor and Ace weren't characterized the best, and so Jacob made certain changes to some of the dialogue, specifically on Ace's part, but for the Doctor too, to make it so that, you know, it's a bit more in line with where their characters are at the time. But even then, you know, one of those really fun little lines comes into the story. You know, it's just really fun to record. You know, Doctor gets to say some fun things. Towards the end, we we threw some Remembrance of the Daleks fan wank in there, so why not?
Hello, my name is Zach Rosenfeld, and I played Inspector Stevens in Doctor Who, Cat's Cradle, The Witch Mark for Security Kitchen Productions. This is a very, very fun role to play. I was channeling the idea of your typical neighborhood Bobby that wants to be a hero in a way. He wants to be a hero by getting involved in these extraterrestrial happenings. Getting into the zone for this, it was all a lot of fun to do. All a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to hearing how this turned out, especially since the rest of this cast is really talented, and I've really enjoyed just doing stuff for Security Kitchen Productions overall.
We also had a terrific cast for this one. I love putting together the cast for this one behind the scenes. But one of the big stars of this one for me is Aaliyah as Ace. She did a great job, especially given the circumstances under which we had to cast Ace. We had a very sudden cast dropout in the shape of Georgia Spencer, and I was ready to edit. I had everything I needed but Ace lines, and we needed to send out a casting call quick, and Aaliyah jumped on. She took on the role of Ace and did an amazing job with it. I don't know where this project would be without her.
Hello, my name is Mason Peters, and I played the part of Captain Reese in Witchmark. Now, this story is an interesting one because I gotta be honest, I am not a fan of the Witchmark book. However, I gotta say, this audio play does a really good job in salvaging what the book was, and sort of acting out on the potential of what the book could have been. Captain Reese was an interesting part to play because I really didn't want to reread the book, and I think Captain Reese is the only character in Witchmark that doesn't have a Wikipedia page. I might be wrong on this, but all I remember is he didn't have a wiki or a Wikipedia page, so I couldn't really determine a personality for him. So there was a little bit of asking around, trying to figure out what character he was, and then my own interpretation of what kind of a person Reese is. I like to think I got him right, and I was really happy to be a part of this. So thank you, Joey, Jacob, for making this, and thanks for allowing me to be a part of this, and thank you to everyone else who ended up listening to this.
So yeah, that was Doctor Who Witchmark. Lots of fun, so much fun, and I hope you all enjoyed it, of course. I hope it was as fun to listen to as it was to edit. So yeah, here's to many more new adventures in the future.